So as you can see, starting now, the film begins with this upwards tilt of the building. I chose this flat in particular as it doesn't look very appealing or as if the rent would be very high. Now I've turned down the soundtrack for this video so you can hear me clearly, but it should still be slightly audible. The moody music was taken from bensound.com and meant to foreshadow that something upsetting is about to happen. Now we cut to inside Ben's bedroom. This was actually shot inside my home. Now I've changed the room around though to reflect his character. He's very lazy, you can see his hair is scruffy, the bed is a complete mess, dirty clothes are thrown about the room. He's playing video games, something that are stereotypically seen as being unproductive. I've opened the curtain as well here to have natural light shining through to suggest that Ben is inside and separating himself from the world outside. The inspiration for this next scene came from The Prestige. You can see from this screenshot, the medium shot shows Angier reading Borden's diary. Now I've chosen a modern day interpretation of this story with Ben reading a text message instead. Similarly, in Rush you also get a medium close-up of Lauder, which is really important for digging into the feelings, bringing the audience in. I did originally want to get lots of missed calls from Lee on this close-up, but unfortunately that's not how Android software works, so I eventually just had him reading the text instead. The voiceover starts about now, which is a massive part of the opposite scene from Prestige. I wanted to have this message actually read out as it really makes the audience feel involved and gives an in-depth look at the character and how Lee really feels when he was sending this message. So you can see here Lee is sat waiting for Jess to arrive. I do wish the weather had been a bit better so he wasn't dressed so heavily, but he still appears more appealing than Ben, who was just really scruffy, so I still feel the scene works. I added some depth of field here in editing, like in The Prestige when Olivia appears, as really Lee is the central focus in the film. Jess is sort of just an entity really for them to fight over. I slightly changed from The Prestige. Rather than having the shot reverse shot in the conversation, I just opted for one long medium shot because it was simply easier. I didn't really have a lot of experience working with cameras. It doesn't really make a difference because the real focus is the conversation and what they're saying. I mean, that's really what puts across that the two of them are fighting over Jess. Like, Lee really tries to emphasise Ben's flaws, like he states that he's lazy and jobless and that he's changed. It was important to show that Lee might be the more attractive of the two, but he really is the best choice when he is willing to throw his friend aside so easily. I think both Lee and Jess are beginning to question this, as they don't really look at each other until the end of the scene. I mean, they still decide to continue to put their concerns aside about the relationship, but I think maybe this is where their story is heading. You can start to notice now that the soundtrack has changed to a different track. This song is even moodier than the first one, and I think it's a lot darker really. It needs to reflect that Ben is starting to become aware that Lee has betrayed him and taken Jess away, and that he's feeling differently now. He's starting to feel upset. You also get the montage scene, which is similar to the one between Borden and Olivia in The Prestige. And it's really meant to show the connection between Lee and Jess. When I did my planning, this was one of the main reasons I decided to shoot in the park, as the bright colours and the sunny outside really brighten up all these shots and juxtapose the dark, dingy setting of Ben's bedroom. We cut to a close-up shot of his face to show the hurt and anger that he's feeling of losing Jess. Now, Ben might not have been the most productive person, but I wanted it to be clear that he still cares about her, and I think he still cares about Lee too, and he really feels a bit disgusted really that this is how he's treated, and it's sort of the difference in their rivalry that one of them can throw the other aside, but the other feels quite twisted really about what he's done to him. And there's another similarity between them when you get that this extreme close-up of Ben trying to crush the phone, and Angier does the same thing, trying to crush Borden's diary, like they're trying to destroy what they've just read and that they don't want to know that it's real. You get the final shot here, which was actually inspired by Rush and Hunt's relationship with the journalist in the separate scene from my textual analysis. He suddenly becomes angry when somebody insults his friend and rival, Lauder. Of course, Ben and Lee don't have the same relationship, so that anger comes from feeling betrayed, basically. So he throws the can at the floor. Originally, I did actually plan for the controller that he was holding to be thrown, but it was too difficult to do this without it being damaged, so I simply chose to use the can. The film closes with a zoom in on Ben with his face in his hands, upset at what happened, further distancing himself really from the rest of society, I guess. I wonder that I could have actually reshot the ending and have him leave to try and win Jess back. But overall, I was happy with the film, and I think this works perfectly well as it stands.